Welcome back. It's number 2 after being gone for a long time. Finally got the car back home. Just a real quick recap. Got the car back home and I've been chipping away at it over the past week or so now that it's gotten back. Found a stock intake manifold setup, plenum, whatever you want to call it, Australian. So I've gone ahead and put that on the car, but that's not really what today's video is kind of about. Today I wanted to do just a little something to, there's 2 things. One is this drop tank, which I've actually been dying to get this in the car and have a look and see what it looks like. So I'm gonna put this in the car, and then that diff hat right there, Platinum Racing Products diff hat, I'm gonna install that. Now, as you can see here, all my little zinc goodness down here, I've been going through just, trying to sort everything out because it's literally just sat for I don't know how long now. And before I show you the engine bay, just please realize it is not complete, nowhere near being done. The next target on the agenda is the fab work, which I'm gonna break up into probably a couple of different things. Just so it's not so much of an impact, because it seems to be the trend at the moment is just boom, a big chunk of change to get something done, and then next week is something else. So I'm gonna try and break it down and do a couple of things just to make the hurt a little less. It ain't cheap. As you can see now, I have an intake manifold on there. I've started putting all the little zinc bits and all that stuff back on, but we have to pull it off. I'm gonna get it cleaned up, get the fab work done for the intercooler and the pipe work and everything. Like, intercooler's still sitting up on the shelf. So when that's on the car, we get in there. We'll get there. But this right here is a huge chunk. Finally, knocked out. To have that engine sitting in the engine bay, for the most part, ready to go. Dang, was my garage door about to fall? That was scary. Yeah, for the most part, ready to go. So we'll come back to this. But the whole point of the video today is to do a deep dive into this drop tank and get you guys some information on it, because the last video that I posted about the drop tank, I ended up getting quite a few messages and DMs and everything else about the drop tank. And yeah, I basically told everybody the same thing. Next video, I'm gonna do a deep dive into it and kind of do some explanation to it. So let's jump in and do that. Okay, so this is the Bespoke Racing Co. drop tank. It's a custom-made product built to order. You can't just send me a link, click a link, and freaking and buy it. Like, there's a little bit of setup, if you want to call it that, around these things. So you have to speak to them, let them know what you want. For instance, I've seen plenty of other drop tanks. I'm not the first one to do this. I'm not gonna be the last one. For the R32 GTR, I didn't quite like how a lot of them were done. So I took what I didn't like, went to him and was like, I want a drop tank. Want it to mount in the factory points. I want to be able to access the fuel hat from the factory location, and I want it to be able to fill up from the factory fuel door. So he took that and was like, okay, well, I definitely can do something like that. Let's see what we come up with. So we started with just a cardboard template, mocking it up in the car, and then from that he went away and did his thing with the metal. This is the final product. So this is a fuel hat similar to, actually, you know what? I've got a stock tank up there. Let me just pull it down so you can actually see the difference. Okay, so factory stock fuel tank, drop tank. So fuel neck, factory. Now I drilled a hole and put a return line in. And then I also added 2 cradles into the bottom so that I could put 2 fuel pumps into the stock tank. But with this one, I won't need to do that because I'll have a fuel hat that has a hanger. There's an internal surge tank. That's what that box is. There's a trap door for the lift pump, which is this guy. Very low draw, small volume pump, just to keep that little tiny fuel cell in there, basically, full of fuel. And it just, everything is one-handed access. And you just basically plop them in there, a couple of screws, and it's in. And then you've got your fuel hat, which will have 2 pumps, maybe even 3. My fuel setup, I'm still kind of undecided on. I think I know what I want to do, but it's a kind of an expensive exercise, so we shall see. But then, there you go. There you go. So you get all your screws that mount around, and then inlets and returns are here. Your power, nice and neat built in. This guy is your fuel level sender, which is electronic, and then this is a vent. Then you'll have your vapor returns and things like that, like your factory one, all built here. So you still run a charcoal canister, perfectly legal. As you can see, the mounting tabs itself, there was no mounting tabs on the stock one because it uses straps, and then those straps bolt into the car, basically suspending your fuel tank on straps. So we've done hard mounting with rubber, so that way you don't get any vibration through the car. Capacity is upped from, I want to say 75 liters here to 100 here. So you get an extra 25. You can kind of see where all the differences are between the tank. I'm gonna go and start trying to mount this thing up real fast. I'll come back, see how it looks. We'll put it back on the ground, go from there. So the diff is out. You can see I painted the factory hat black, which you get some varying opinions on. But man, I don't remember this being such a big job. Like, sway bar has to come out, tail drive has to come out. You basically dismantle the whole rear end of the car. But anyway, now that it's out, it would be fantastic if I had a good workbench to do this on, but the floor is what I got. So now I'm just gonna remove the diff hat itself, just obviously held in with a couple of bolts there. And then I won't transfer over the studs because the kit does come with genuine Nissan studs. So I'll just thread those in. And then I'll put the O-ring around that guy, which I still may seal up with some silicone gasket. We'll see. But let me get this hat off. I'll show you what's inside. We'll do the quick swap over, and then I'll chuck it back in the car, and we'll see how it fits up with the drop tank. All right, so ordinarily, if you pop the last bolt off on a diff and it's that bone dry, you got an issue. But this thing hasn't ran in quite some time, so I drained it a long time ago, and yeah, she still looks pretty good, to be honest, for being the factory diff that came in the car, and as much abuse as I've put through this thing. Onto the PRP hat. So it's gonna effectively sit like that. Dang. Yeah, that's nasty. That's nasty. All right, so I'm gonna put the studs in this thing, get it all bolted up and pretty. We'll put it back in the car and I'll show you guys how it looked. But man, like I said, I don't remember it being this big of a job. Back of the car is in the air now. You can see the drop tank a little bit better. Let me get under here. All right, so you can see the diff hat there with the extended fins. Has plenty of clearance to the drop tank itself. And because I don't run the Hikis lock bar, those fins have no issues with clearance.
I know if you have like an aftermarket lock bar, the fins do become an issue, but PRP also sell like the lock bar to go with it. But obviously the best way to go is the Eliminator kit. The drop tank itself, as you can see, is really big. But like I said, bolts into the factory locations with 4 bolts. And you got plenty of clearance for your tire. So that's a pretty skinny tire, but as you can see, there's a ton of room there for growth. All right, so in typical GTR fashion, I'm now in the mad rush trying to get this thing ready to get to GTR Festival. Drop tank's in, the diff hat's in, and had a little bit of an issue. So my manifold ended up hitting on the frame rail, which the fantastic guys over at Hypertune and Alex took it straight away, get it fixed up, and I'm just waiting on that to come back. The engine mount I had some issues with, and this side didn't even have a bolt in it, so that was fun. Engine's ready to go. We're just trying our best here to get the fab work done. But what I thought I'd do is go ahead and show you the top part of the fuel tank. So I know you might be looking at this and going, well, let me grab you a light. All right, so I know you might be looking at this and going, dude, that is not center. That's the entire point. So all the fittings that you can see right there, plus that breather, are meant to be accessible. So the actual fuel hat is on an offset center. I can still pull the fuel hat out and access the fuel pumps with no issue. So I actually don't have to drop the tank every 5 minutes if I want to, you know, if I have a fuel issue. I'll show you real quick. That comes straight out. Fuel pump hanger is there. And that drops right back into the surge tank that it sits in. Looks a bit weird, but it serves the purpose. And underneath the factory kind of hat there, which I just dropped my non-zinced. I just found that these aren't zinced, so I'm gonna have to get them done up, but that's a problem for another day. Underneath that guy, I won't bother fixing it up. You won't even know it's there. So I've got the car in the air at the moment, and you can see the drop tank just barely on the side profile. So I think I will do a black on that, just a satin black to kind of hide it a little bit better so it doesn't give it that straight muscle car look.